You can blame Dave.
Nah, it was my fault.
Dave, for once, is gonna be the guy to fall on the sword here. But no, I got a good show coming up here. Look, around 10:30, we'll talk with LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, Andrew Lopez. We'll tie a bow around LSU Bama and move on to LSU Arkansas. And my goodness, Jeff, I didn't even know Coastal Carolina had a football team. I know they had a baseball team, because they have won the national championship, and yet I didn't know they actually had a football team that existed. I just figured that's all they did, play baseball and hung out on the beach in Myrtle Beach. But they apparently can beat Arkansas in football, right?
Yes.
That's not good.
No, I don't think it's a good sign for Brett Bielema. And as we talked about before, these last few weeks of the SEC schedule could dictate future job security for a lot of these coaches, and LSU just happens to be playing 3 of them in a row, with Arkansas this weekend and then Tennessee, and then finishing up the season with A&M. I think all 3 of those coaches, Bielema, Butch Jones, and Kevin Sumlin, they need to win, and they need to win impressively, or we're going to have the Nick Saban factor again, everybody looking for jobs. And I'm not sure how many good coaches there are out there right now to replace these guys.
I was listening to something earlier this morning, and they were talking about maybe Jim Mora Jr. leaving UCLA and going back to the Southeast and getting one of those jobs, like an Ole Miss job or an Arkansas job or something like that.
Seems like a weird fit, doesn't it?
It just seems like everywhere he's gone, it doesn't work. I mean, I don't know. So it works for a little while, but doesn't work well enough. So I don't know. Another retread, I'm not sure. But look, we'll talk with Andrew Lopez about that. Around 10:45, we will have our old colleague, former colleague. Now he covers the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Jacksonville Times-Union. John Reed will join us. We'll chat with him, of course, about Leonard Fournette, his great rookie season, and why on planet Earth he was inactive last week. Totally bizarre, totally ruining fantasy football owners' lives. It's an interesting and curious thing that's going on over there, and yet they're winning. They're one of the aren't they in first place in the AFC South? That's amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, that's not the greatest accomplishment. That's a bad division. It's like being the world's fastest race walker or something, but they are playing well. They're one of the surprise teams in the league, and former Saints assistant Doug Marone's the head coach there, former Times-Picayune employee. I'm going to bring it up every time we talk about Doug Marone.
Absolutely. And John Reed. So, hey, they're all former Times-Picayune.
Lots of New Orleans connections down there.
Exactly. So Jacksonville 5-3. They have one of the better defenses in the NFL. But we want to talk about Leonard Fournette. And, look, around 11:20, Dave, you better get ready because Herbie's going to come in hot wanting his music requests. Herbie Teope, NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune Saints beat writer is going to join us.
Is he a Nickelback fan too?
11:20. He is a fan of cheesy music, so I don't think you can really go wrong. But he's going to want his Game of Thrones, you know him, Return of the Mac, all of his wacky requests. You had to deal with Diva Herbie on this subject before.
Yeah, I mean, I got him covered.
Yeah, there you go. So and then top of the 11 o'clock hour, we'll also hear from Sean Payton, part of his Monday conference call that went on during our show yesterday. We'll play some of the interesting sound bites there. But look, hey, it's amazing. First segment, we're already getting phone callers. Brother already has his own music. Brother and Metairie, I mean, he's rearing ready to go. I think he tried to call in about 5 or 6 times yesterday, missed his opportunity, and damn it, he's going to get in right off the bat before we even get started. What's up, brother? Thanks for calling the show.
I'm not gonna get left out today, guys.
I must have announced your name 4 times, and we're like, brother's gone again. I said, what is he doing? I don't know. What is he playing Frogger in traffic? I have no idea.
No, I had a problem. So I apologize for that.
All good.
It's a very good time to be a Saints fan. I hope this train just keeps rolling. The Mondays feel beautiful. I just hope the injuries are not as bad as what. We lost a couple of players left the field. I just hope. I know y'all probably don't know much about what happened, but injury-wise. But I hope they're not hurt too bad.
Yeah, brother. I agree. Look, it is obviously some good times here in New Orleans, and yet the injuries are mounting, and it's a big concern. Look, we already know that Delvin Breaux's had a setback, so you're not going to anticipate him coming back in the immediate future. Larry Warford's hurt. Zach Streep's on IR. Teron Armstead has an MRI on his chest. We don't know the results, but all I do know is that they reclaimed Bryce Harris off waivers from the 49ers, so that should tell you something there, that they might not have Teron Armstead, at least in the very immediate future.
And he just came back, I mean, they just got him back and were really kind of solidified up front. And once again, the merry-go-round continues on the offensive line. And look, there's a lot of whispers out there about Delvin Breaux. We don't know what his status is, but a lot of people concerned he might be out for the season. And whatever setback he's had clearly is not good for the Saints secondary.
Absolutely not. And then you also look at Kenny Vaccaro. He left the game. What are they going to do there? Look, P.J. Williams got some playing time. Chris Banjo got some playing time. We're going to certainly have to monitor what's going on with Kenny Vaccaro, Larry Warford as well. So the fact that we're spouting off all these things, to me, just even shows how gritty this Saints team is right now. 6-2, 6-game win streak. And Jeff, if you watched any of the Monday ESPN shows, I don't know how much you watch it. I just happened to put them on. I was working and doing a column for later in the week, and I just had them on as kind of background noise. And everyone's talking about the NFC elite, and it's always Eagles, it's Rams, and then like later on in the show, they'll say, "Oh well, the Saints, they've won 6 in a row. Should we buy in?" It's literally kind of maybe. I'm going to take credit, piggybacking off the column that I wrote, because I said you should go all in, and people are kind of iffy, say like on PTI or Around the Horn or even on, say, the NFL Live shows, that people are still wary of buying into the Saints, even though they've won 6 in a row.
Yeah, they haven't seen the team weekly like we have and seen the progress on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it's legitimate. It's not a fluky thing, and they haven't seen the running game's development in the offensive line. So they're just, I think, warming nationally to the Saints. Peter King finally got around to having a nice segment on them in his Monday Morning Quarterback. Andy Benoit of Sports Illustrated also with a nice in-depth piece. So people are catching on. I don't think it's a lack of confidence in them. I just think that there's been more spectacular turnarounds in Los Angeles. We talked about Jacksonville, Philadelphia coming out of nowhere. Those stories are getting the play nationally just because they're as big as surprises as the Saints right now.
Yeah, and you've got all these other storylines nationally with Ezekiel Elliott, and they're overcoming that in Dallas. And Dallas, of course, gets a big win against Kansas City, and they're 5-3 and still in the mix. So, yeah, those blue blood and bigger markets are going to get the play. And even though Drew Brees is one of the most recognizable players in the NFL, he doesn't drive the meter as much as these big markets with bigger storylines.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. The Rams are one of these stories of the NFL. You've got a very similar storyline to what happened here in New Orleans in 2006. A bright young offensive mind, young coach. What is Sean McVay, 36 or 38?
I think he's 31.
31? Okay, gosh, yes. He's even younger than I thought.
Yeah.
31 years old, turning around a team that hadn't been there in decades in the second largest market or third largest market in the country. Yeah, that's going to get some attention, especially how spectacular the turnaround has been offensively. And then you got this cover boy young quarterback as well, and that's also happening in Philadelphia with Carson Wentz. So those storylines are going to generate the national headlines. They'll get around to New Orleans, but those are going to come first.
I think the Saints, honestly, should be good with it. I know some of the players on Twitter, they chirp, they see a stat and wondering, oh, well, why am I not getting this credit? Or when they get credit, hey, we kind of deserve bigger credit. Now, I get that because they're playing very well. And you and me particularly try to boast as much as we can. And I'm not going to play egomaniac here, but on the national scope, when they look to, okay, who covers the Saints, who's the authority? Of course, the Times-Picayune. Who are the names that have covered the team the longest? Larry Holder and Jeff Duncan. So they will read what we're writing, but that's all they're doing. They're not sitting there watching them in games and all these studio shows. They're not getting the same perspective that you and me try to provide and try to kind of get out there and say, look, this is the story. Everyone should start paying attention to this.
And I agree with you, Larry. I don't think the players – I mean, there's a side of them that wants some notoriety. It helps them get Pro Bowl, notoriety down the road, things like that. But for the most part, this team's been locked in and focused all year and really flying under the radar. They did that all training camp. I mean, we didn't see hardly any national riders in New Orleans to start this season. In training camp, they're not on national TV very often this year, probably as few of appearances as we've seen in the last 12 years under Sean Payton and Drew Brees. And that's a shame because this team's fun to watch. They can win a lot of ways. They still have Drew Brees. They've got emerging stars and Mike Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So that game in a couple weeks against L.A. is going to be, in my opinion, one of the best games of the NFL season, and it's not going to be a national broadcast.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to look at, okay, the Saints have all this success, but when will people buy in? I feel like you need a massive barometer game to do that. And I'll just reference back to 2009. The Saints were undefeated, but the barometer game was when you made Bill Belichick and Tom Brady wave the white flag and quit, and they beat up the New England Patriots. The Rams, I get it's a barometer game because the Rams are playing well, but to me, I could even see how people might shy away from that game as being a barometer game because they've done it this one year and have been kind of just mediocre and not very good for how many years now? So it's hard for me to say, oh boy, if the Saints win that game, boy, they're in. I'm just going to say, look, I think they're good enough, they're in now, and you just see where the chips fall later on down the season.
Yeah, there's so many other storylines. I mean, Minnesota's having a very good year, and they beat the Saints in the opener. A lot of people saw that on Monday Night Football, so I still think there's a little bit of a lack of buy-in. They haven't really beaten anybody during this stretch because of Aaron Rodgers being down. We saw them, the Packers, lose again at home last night on Monday Night Football and looked bad doing it. So I think the jury's still out in some ways on this Saints team as far as how big of a contender are they. Where are they at? We know that they're probably going to be a playoff team this year, or should, unless the wheels fall off. But what does that mean? Does that mean they're one and done, or can they actually make a run at, say, the NFC title game?
Hey, I think it's wide open still as we're at the midpoint of the season.
Yes.
And look, let's take a break right here on the show. And Jeff, the FedEx Weekly Awards, they have the Air and Ground Award nominees coming out today. And Drew Brees isn't in the Air Awards, so we're not going to mention him. But part of the Ground Awards, Ezekiel Elliott, Adrian Peterson, Alvin Kamara. They're the three nominees. The Saints never needed Adrian Peterson. I'm just going to keep saying that.
They really didn't.
No, they don't need him. They never needed him. Didn't need him now. Don't need him. Didn't need him 3 months ago. Never needed him.
Hey, that's worked out for everybody. That's worked out. I mean, they paid a little extra money, obviously, a few $1 million, but certainly Adrian Peterson's been a big boon. I'm not bought into the Cardinals all year, and I'm starting to buy in a little bit.
I wouldn't go that far quite yet. They're still got to top Seattle and Los Angeles. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. So don't forget Andrew Lopez talking to LSU in about 10 minutes or so. We'll talk Leonard Fournette and the Jacksonville Jaguars around 10:45 with John Reed from the Jacksonville Times-Union. Herbie Teope will talk Saints around 11:20. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword cash to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's cash to 200-200.
Yeah.
I'm doing most outstanding offensive player, most outstanding defensive player, rookie of the year, play of the year, best free agent signing, worst free agent signing, celebration of the year. I'm saying most hilarious moment, and I'm saying Devontae Harris when he said he dressed up as a Pop-Tart as a kid.
East Carolina this
Quotes of the year,
11,
MVP.
on your
what am I
home
missing?
for Tulane football.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Atlantis,
Best win, worst
where
loss.
life expresses itself as an
I mean, I
endless
think you got to have
flow
some
of energy.
negatives in there somehow.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
Ready,
like
Atlantis.
Biggest, not worst, biggest disappointment. I mean,
Yeah,
it
things
was
like
like sneezing.
This week on Big Easy Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Aquarium of the Americas. At the aquarium, penguins,
biggest
stingrays,
surprise
sharks,
player
and other
and
deep-sea
worst
creatures
disappointment.
await your visit. Get your family 4-pack for only $48 at Fox Sports AM.
Yeah, I mean, somehow you could mention
keyword deals.
the
1 minute.
Delvin Breaux
Habitat for Humanity
misdiagnosis
builds
somehow
houses
invent a category for that.
so
'cause that
much
was like
more. A
major
Habitat
setback.
website is where hanging a door opens a world of opportunity, where turning a screw turns the page,
Biggest
and where a
snafu.
simple key can unlock a brighter future. You see, Habitat for Humanity builds houses and so much more. What will you build? Visit Habitat.org to learn more.
If you're a pro, you don't buy a little of this or that. You buy a lot of this or that. And at the Home Depot, you save even more. Save up to 15% in bulk discounts on select pro-grade products from top brands like 3M.
We'll chat quick
and
just
Liquid
about
Nails.
college football
As a
poll
pro, you
and
work
lead
hard
into
for your money.
Lopes.
You shouldn't have to
This
work hard to
segment's
save
going to be
it.
short.
Is Lopes
Up to
coming up?
15% in
10:30.
bulk
Okay,
discounts
we're
on
gonna take
select
another break
pro-grade
before
products.
then.
All right.
Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. See store for details.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan here with you in our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. And Jeff, the college football playoff rankings come out later on this evening. We could assume we know 1, 2, and 3. I don't think Georgia's going to fall. I don't think Alabama's going to fall this week, and I don't think Notre Dame's going anywhere this week. But, boy, you start looking at kind of the future. Look, some teams are going to take each other out. And, look, we talked about Miami last week, how they could creep up there. But the one team who I think could finish undefeated and miss out on this whole thing could be someone like Wisconsin. Their schedule's not that tough. They don't have these big major wins, and I'm curious to see if, say, it pans out, if Alabama and Georgia both get in, and if Notre Dame stays the course, you might have 2 or 3 of the power conferences just totally left out of this thing.
Yeah, I agree. Dennis Dodd last week mentioned Wisconsin as one of the teams that he thinks can sneak in there, and you start to look at their schedule, I think it's a very real possibility, and who would have thought that? I mean, they've been completely off the radar all season long. And I think however this falls out between Georgia and Alabama, it looks like they're both going to go unbeaten. Unless Alabama trips up at Auburn, and I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility, then that's going to throw a wrench in it. Say, what if this happens? What if Auburn upsets Alabama? Alabama still somehow makes it to the SEC championship game, and then they beat Georgia. Then you've got all one-loss SEC teams. How does that play into the rankings with some other unbeaten teams?
It would be quite a wild final stretch. And look, we've seen final wild stretches in BCS era when you only had 2 spots, but it could be a total toss-up. And look at this marquee matchup this week. Oklahoma, TCU, both are 8-1. The winner there, you think, could propel themselves into the conversation. And look, Miami's going to play Notre Dame at some point, and Clemson's still lurking around. And but yeah, Auburn could really be the big spoiler. What if they somehow beat Georgia or Alabama? Any of those two, you never know. But it's something that you see these college polls and where they go for now. Look, and LSU's out of the conversation, obviously. LSU's just trying to get to a New Year's Day bowl at somehow. And we'll talk with Andrew Lopez about maybe the possibility going forward after losing to Alabama. But you look at this, and this thing is so still wide open. And whenever Notre Dame's in the mix, it always kind of throws a wrench into the old Power 5 conferences. I'm sure they love when Notre Dame is actually worth a damn and throws their nose into things and muddies the water all up for everybody else.
Well, look, I like this system better than what we had before, but I still think it's completely inadequate. I think they need to have a 16-game playoff, just like 1AA does. Let's get everybody in the mix. The difference between some of these teams that we're talking about, no one really knows. If we have a bunch of one-loss teams, there's no way to know unless they play each other. So this beauty contest way of picking teams, the perception game that plays into it, is inadequate, and it's been that way for a long time, and I've never understood why every other division of college football can play a playoff with 16 teams and yet 1A can't. It makes no sense to me, and no one's ever made an argument that makes any sense to me other than the bowls make a ton of money for everybody, and they have a lobbying power to keep themselves relevant.
That's the only reason, of course.
That's it.
Of course that's it.
That's it. And look, I love the Sugar Bowl here. They've done a ton of great things over the years. There's a way they could incorporate it in, like they've done with the college football playoff, and keep them in the mix and make this thing a real playoff. Can you imagine how much money would be bid by a network for a 16-game college football playoff? It would be massive.
I would just say even 8. You add one more round to it.
I want 16. I don't want 8.
I know. You want from the beginning of the year just all brackets.
16 and 1 AA. What's the problem? They've done it forever. These schools are like, those kids aren't going to class. They're probably going to more classes than the elite schools are going to. To me, it's 16 teams gets all the other conferences involved, and that's one of my big beefs. If you go to 8, it's going to be all Power 5 teams. Let's include the American Athletic Conference champion in there.
You want UCF in?
Yes, I want Memphis or somebody. I want to see them play. Why not? Why are you legislating them out of your? It's a country club, and you can't be a member. That's what you're saying. I don't like that.
Jeff, I'm not going to disagree with your point for once.
I'm
not going to do it.
For once.
I'm not going to do it. Let's take a break right here on the show. We'll talk more about bowl possibilities coming up for LSU as they take on Arkansas this week and tie a bow on the LSU-Bama loss, at least the loss by LSU to Alabama, with Andrew Lopez, LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, coming up next here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder. No, I'm good.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I'm taking you to lunch this week. So.
This report is brought to you by the Exergen
no, not today. I don't
thermometer.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, another warm and muggy day with highs of 84, partly cloudy skies and mostly dry. Now tonight, lows drop to the mid to upper 60s with patchy dense fog. Tomorrow and Wednesday, the front moves in. Rain chances at 30% with a high of 78. And then Wednesday night, still a few showers. The front finally bridges on through. We dry out and turn breezy and much cooler for Thursday and Friday. Highs in the upper 60s. Overnight lows 40s north and 50s south. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
The Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer is the top choice of doctors, nurses, and other health professionals nationwide. It can be yours too. Now at your local Club Warehouse and other fine retailers today.
Exergen is caring for your...
All right, we got Lopes.
Cool.
Are you taking Viagra for ED?
And did Jeff send you that number?
Yes,
okay.
For
John Reed.
John Reed.
Yeah.
Grams for $2.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, cool.
That's a savings of $40 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic sildenafil to your door. For information on sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-853-6375. That number again, 800-853-6375.
The sound drop from Pepsi.
Hey guys, I'm Max. Lights Down Low, I wrote for my wife and I proposed to her with it. I knew I was gonna marry her. I knew she was gonna be the mother of my children. I knew. We all just were like, let's write about that. Let's write about when you know, that energy of knowing you have to just create it authentically. And it's been the greatest gift of all that people make it their wedding songs or invite it into their lives in that way. Find out more at thesounddrop.com.
Charlie! Hey, did you see that play?
All right, 30 seconds. Football.
Yeah, and they still lost.
Sure.
You know, when I was playing, we tried to...
You played in the street.
I played in the service. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is the kid, he should have...
Yeah, Hey, you okay? Someone call 911!
2 out of 3 people with diabetes die.
That's what I thought. I was like, look, it's Kitty Jeff.
Ask your healthcare provider how. For more info, go to diabetesactnow.org. Brought to you by the American Diabetes Association.
Mine's only 5 years old.
Still don't have any gray hair. None.
You gotta keep them separated.
Our All-Stars bring you the inside knowledge for your home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. Joining us right now on the show, Andrew Lopez, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune LSU beat writer. And Lopes, I had the contention yesterday of man, I read a lot of positivity after that LSU-Bama loss. Again, LSU losing to Alabama, and it's almost like, oh, wow, they only lost by 14. That's a good thing. And to me, I think that's crazy talk. Why is it okay if LSU loses by 14 at Alabama? It's almost like, oh, wow, it's a moral victory. I'm like, well, if you're LSU, why should you be at that point? I mean, am I crazy, or is the kind of the vibe around the team that, all right, we only lost by 14, so it was a good performance?
I think talking to the team itself, they realize that there's no such thing as moral victories, but they understand that they played better. And I think the difference is, and it kind of goes back to the game last year, was it was an execution issue, and it was a game plan issue. But in a game that you were supposed to lose, and you were widely expected to lose, you were a 21-point underdog. It's then okay if you lose by 14 in the game where you missed 4 deep balls that could have changed the way the game is. So I think that's why you saw it, because I'll tell you what, it did have a different feel than some other Alabama losses, and I think the team kind of is planning on using this as a springboard for the rest of their season. Like, hey, like we're right there. We can play with Alabama. We put the top team in the country when we're on our game, and I think that was the reason for much of the positivity yesterday.
Yeah, Andrew, I'll tell you, I just reading Ron Higgins' column this morning kind of echoes what you just said, and I agree 100%. In the past, there's always been a concern after the Alabama game, after a loss in particular, that there's going to be this letdown, this hangover, if you will, and it's affected the team on the field. I don't get that sense this year. I get a sense more than anything that it's going to, like you said, springboard this team down the stretch, and I think they're going to be a very dangerous team going into the bowl season.
Well, first of all, this team has actually always bounced back well from losses under Ed Orgeron. They've now lost, I think, 5 games under Ed since he took over, and they've won the next game every time. So, with this obviously being the 5th loss, so obviously they're 4-0, but they're ready. And I think yesterday you had Devin White say that, you know, we had a different intensity level. Like, we all cranked it up a notch for Alabama, and what they thought was that, hey, if we can carry this through, we can, you know, we can do some damage. I mean, you're looking at a team who's going to face 3 consecutive coaches who could conceivably get fired, not even at the end of the year, probably depending on the result of each game. You had Brett Bielema at Arkansas. You follow that up with Butch Jones at Tennessee, and then you have Kevin Sumlin at A&M. So you have coaches coaching for their jobs on the other side of the sideline. It's ripe for a 9-3 finish, when I think if you would have said at the beginning of the year that this team was going to finish 9-3, most fans would have gone ahead and take that with this year.
Andrew Lopez covers LSU for NOLA.com and Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Look, Chris Dabe wrote a story about how what will it take for Miles Brennan to play over Danny Etling in this final 3 games. Just what was Ed Orgeron's opinion on that, and just in your eyes, what do you think it would take for Brennan to get in the game over Etling? You know, I know he missed some deep throws, but obviously you saw what Miles got in, and Alabama just tried to basically take his head off, and he did not look like he was ready for that moment.
I've had a friend text me pretty much every bad throw Danny has made this year. Has got at me on Twitter or texted me and said, when are we going to put Miles in? When are we going to put Miles in? We got to put the freshman in. And I tell him every time, Danny is your best chance to win games. Danny is your best chance to win games. He again was sending me these messages on Saturday, and after he saw what Alabama did to him, he goes, "Okay, I believe you. I won't send you messages anymore. Danny's our best chance to win." And I think that's what LSU fans need to realize, that Miles is the future. Either him or Lowell Narcisse are the future going forward. The future is not now. You still have a 10-win season to play for. You still have to show you this offense can perform for recruits. So Danny is still the best guy that gives you a chance to win. What will it take for Miles to have to start? Danny would have to have a complete regression. And it's not just not hitting the deep ball. It's everything else that he does. When Danny threw that interception, this is their 9th game of the season. It was only his 2nd interception of the year, and really his first real in-game interception. The first one comes, it's a deep ball throwaway against Troy that they're trying to go down the field in 22 seconds or whatever it was. So he's still the best option. Danny would have to miss all sorts of throws, not just the long. He would have to miss on screens. He would have to miss the short pass, the things that he excels at. He would have to kind of get jittery feet in the pocket. There's a lot that would have to go wrong. In O's words, he would have to not execute the game plan in order for LSU to go to Miles in a full situation.
I tell you, Andrew, the one thing that stood out to me in the game against Bama, and it was the concern I think for a lot of people going in, it's been a huge mismatch in the past, and that is LSU's offensive line, which is playing a lot of young people going against that Alabama front seven, and I thought they held up fairly well. All things considered, I thought they competed well, and it wasn't this porous, complete one-sided domination, and I think that's got to be encouraging for Ed Orgeron, his staff, and for LSU fans going forward, because there's a lot of young guys up there that have kind of been thrown to the fire, and certainly Saturday night at Bryant-Denny Stadium was a baptism by fire, and I think you have to be encouraged with where they're going up front with some of these young guys.
Alabama ended up sacking LSU quarterbacks 6 times, but I think 3 or 4 of those came in the fourth quarter when it was pretty apparent that LSU had to throw the ball deep, and 2 of those came against Miles Brennan when they were just sending guys. Right before when Danny Etling shot, they got knocked out. He got knocked down a couple times. So, but like you said, for the most part, they were steady the entire game, and that was a positive. They rushed, for 150-something yards. A lot of that comes on what Darrell Williams and Darius Geis do. Both of them rushed for over 70 yards. Obviously, Darrell got a big chunk of his on that one Wildcat play. You lost a lot of yardage with your quarterback sacks, but they did it without the trickery. I think the jet sweeps were like 9 jet sweeps for 31 yards from the wide receivers. Darrell and Darius combined for over 150 yards themselves in the ground game. So you have to. Again, we go back to looking for positives. The way they played is definitely a positive for what was at one time a very shaky group for this LSU squad.
Andrew Lopez, LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. And you have a post up this morning. And look, once you get past Alabama, and you're not going to be really thinking about, all right, they're going to be LSU's in SEC title game contention. Now you're thinking of bowl projections, and you've got a post up where I think I've seen 7 or 8 bowls mentioned within this bowl projection. What's the best bowl do you think they can get to? And I know Ron put LSU taking on Troy in the New Orleans Bowl as a bit of a funny little joke. But what's the best bowl you think they can get to? And what's the bowl that if they totally bottom out, what's the worst bowl they can go to?
Well, and this is not my opinion, this is Bill Bender of the Sporting News' opinion. He still thinks that they can get to the Cotton Bowl, which is a New Year's Six bowl, by winning out. And I think he's also predicting a lot of mass chaos on the other side of college football for them to be able to sneak in right there for a team that's probably going to be 24 or 25 in the college football rankings tonight if they're not out of the college football rankings. Realistically, I think the best bowl they can get to would be the Citrus Bowl, which is where they were last year. Now, would the Citrus Bowl take them 2 years in a row? That remains to be seen. I don't think that they would, but that would be the best bowl you could get to. The way the SEC works, normally after the sugar, but this year, after you take whoever makes it to the college football playoff, which I think will be Alabama and Georgia, then you kind of get to pick. The Citrus Bowl gets first pick, and then the next 5 or 6 teams get put into a pool. The Citrus Bowl gets that first pick. I just don't know if they do pick LSU. I think the best bowl for them will be the Outback Bowl, and I think it's kind of funny because a lot of people changed their bowl projections this week from Outback or the Citrus to knocking them down to the Tax Slayer Bowl, which used to be the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, or the Texas Bowl in Houston. I never thought they were going to win this game, so my bowl prediction hasn't changed. I still think the team finishes 9-3, and I think I just changed the team that I think they're going to play. I like a Penn State matchup in the Outback Bowl, but I think if you bottom out completely, then you're looking at going to Texas for the Houston, or going to Houston for the Texas Bowl, or going to Nashville for the Music City Bowl. That's when you completely bottom out. Although, if you completely bottom out, I think you have bigger problems if you can't beat any of these next three teams.
Andrew, switching gears real quick. Tomorrow, the early signing period for college basketball recruits begins. What can we expect for Will Wade and his basketball program? I know they've had a bunch of high-profile commitments. Everybody going to sign this week coming up, or are people going to be putting things off?
That was the expectation before. We're actually about to go meet with Will Wade at LeBurge right now for his monthly luncheon, and I'm sure we'll talk to him about that. But I believe the expectation is for everyone to sign tomorrow. That would be a big get. This is the kind of day that when you're in college basketball, this is what's a lot of fans are going to see in college football. You want some of these guys to commit. You don't want, to sign. You don't want these guys to have to wait. And if Will Wade can get these three guys that he has committed right now, Nas Reed, Javonte Smart, and then Darius Days, if he can get those guys on the dotted line, that will help him get another guy down the road to fill out this class, another 4 or 5 star guy. He's swinging for the fences. This is a team who right now still has the best class in the SEC, number 3 class in the nation according to 247 Sports. So if they can continue to do what they're doing, the future's bright out there for LSU basketball. It's just a matter of getting these guys in right now.
That's amazing. Number 3 committed class right now, out of nowhere in his first go-round at LSU. That's impressive.
Well, I just hope he keeps fans around long enough through this season, because if the season goes into tubes, then it's like, okay, I guess we'll wait till next year.
You sounded like Sean Payton there.
No, this is more. That's more of the goat noise when you do a chameleon play and you try to hide Tommy Lee Lewis. That didn't go so well, but that's another topic for later on in the show. Andrew Lopez, LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Hey, Lopes, appreciate the time as always.
No problem, guys.
All right, that's Andrew Lopez. Let's switch gears here coming up on the other side of this break, and let's go to Jacksonville, the Jaguars. A longtime NOLA.com Times-Picayune employee and now covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, John Reed will join us. We'll talk with him about Leonard Fournette, his good rookie season, and what on planet Earth happened last week where he was inactive. And then we'll talk with him about the job Doug Marrone has done. Look, he's former offensive coordinator and offensive line coach with Sean Payton on his original staff. So we will talk with him about that next here, Sports 1280. NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder. Good call, Simon. I knew it was coming. I forgot when they're signing.
Yeah. I was trying to find it. I thought it was next week.
Don't they have an early one in football now, too?
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it. All these little things adding up. I've seen 7-9 teams for the last 3 years. This is not a 7-9 team.
Sports 1280.
New Orleans. Away from the bigger schools. They need something going for them.
When it comes to vehicle safety, having poor visibility is a risk not worth taking. Get set for this fall's weather by visiting your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store during the See Better, Drive Safer sale. You'll find deals on name brand headlights, wiper blades, and everything you need to see better and drive safer. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Good marks coming for the iPhone X's camera. Camera testing site DxOMark says the latest iPhone hits a score of 101 for its photo quality, besting the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 and Huawei Mate 10 that were tied at a score of 100. The test says the 10 has a noticeably better zoom performance and does better in terms of exposure, color, and texture compared to the iPhone 8 Plus. You can now buy a Slurpee with your Amazon Cash. The service that lets consumers add cash to their Amazon.com balance at brick-and-mortar retailers is now available at nearly 8,000.
All right, we got John.
Cool. Amazon Cash was previously only available.
He's like, they have a producer now. I'm like, yeah, they're big time.
$100 in a single transaction with no fees. Chipotle will try and lure customers back with an updated mobile app. The burrito chain says the new version of the app makes it easier for customers to find locations, order, and pay for food on their phones.
Wait, I gotta see if she's going to
been hammered by a series of food safety crises.
I believe somebody can land her on the
NBC
program.
News Radio.
You've heard about podcasts.
I don't know who that would be.
Maybe you didn't know where to start. iHeartRadio is making podcast listening easy. Just open the free iHeartRadio app and tap podcasts. There you'll find collections of our favorite podcasts to help you get started. The biggest names in podcasting, like the Bill Simmons podcast, The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and so many more. All available for free. Now, your favorite radio app can be your favorite podcast app. Download the free
have to wine and dine me too bad.
We'll go mid-range.
In the developing world,
the
more
weather's
than
so nice.
400 children are born with a cleft lip and or palate. Join Smile Train in giving a smile to them. Smile Train empowers doctors to do a simple surgery free for the child's family. To learn more, visit smiletrain.org.
I still got to pick up
30 seconds.
Power
Brady,
to change
and then
everything.
Joni's going like across the lake.
Put a grand in your hand.
Night out or
Win
something.
$1,000
Yeah, so I was like,
every
15
times a day. Weekdays.
She's going with a friend to see Bad Moms Christmas, and then they're going like after that to go out to dinner.
Listen,
we're in the North Shore.
Somewhere in like Covington, I don't know. 'Cause her friend lives on the North Shore, so she's going. I don't know.
Tell her to go get a drink at that restaurant I went to with Brett. I got a cool little bar.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. And our next guest is so impressed that we actually have a producer for our show. I love it. John Reed remembers us just from the good old days of me and Jeff just being total schlubs. And John, we're still total schlubs.
Yeah, we're still slow. Let's not get carried away.
So
here.
don't think we've stepped up in major class. Even though Dave, our producer, takes good care of us. How you doing, my friend? Good to talk to you.
Hey, man, he took my secret. I asked there. I'm feeling good, guys. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, long-time Hornets and Pelicans writer for us here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, now at the Jacksonville Times-Union, covering still New Orleans ties with Leonard Fournette. First off, before we get into the wackiness that happened, putting him inactive, just what has your thoughts been on him? Obviously, he's high profile, and he's been, at least offensively, the driving force on that offense to get Jacksonville up to 5-3 this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Larry, he's been everything that everyone in Jacksonville expected, especially Tom Coughlin. I mean, first thing he said when they drafted him that they needed playmakers and guys who can get in the end zone, and he's had 7 touchdowns, 6 rushing, which is the most in franchise history after 6 games that he's played, and just his physical presence. I mean, he's just been a guy who just, you look at watching in the games, he initiating contact, he's got the vision. I mean, everything you guys seen at LSU, he transferred that over to the pro game. I mean, there was some situations in training camp where that they have, it's kind of odd to see someone of his caliber playing backup. But they worked that out in week 1. But man, he's just been a work. Guys that work hard. The guys in the locker room accepted him. They don't treat him like a rookie. And I foresee big things for this kid, man. I mean, he's been everything here.
John, so what happened Sunday? I mean, I know the report was that he missed a team photo. It sounded like there were some other reports that he missed a treatment, maybe some kind of workout. Have you all been able to get to the bottom of that? And do you think that's just Doug Marrone sending a message to his young star that keeping him kind of on the straight and narrow?
It's definitely a message. I mean, there's no question about Doug Marrone. I mean, he's not going to have anybody as good as Leonard Fournette is. Everybody got to conform to the team rules, but he did miss the photo shoot during the bye week, and he missed the mandatory treatment appointment for his sprained ankle on Tuesday of that week, but he practiced the whole time, and our understanding is that they knew all along that he wasn't going to play, but they, whatever happened, they didn't release it till like about an hour or so before kickoff, but that was their discretion. But Leonard is 22 years old, man, and he's a situation where he got young kids, and I think he's been going back and forth to New Orleans a lot, and I think that's one of the things he has to work out as a rookie, man. You got to, separate the family from the business side, and I think that's one of the things that he definitely learned from that, because he hadn't played since week 6, and this, that was the second week in a row he didn't play against Indianapolis because of the ankle injury. But I think there's something. It's not nothing that's foreseen to be a problem ahead or anything like that. They sat him down. There was a lesson learned, and I think he understood what that message was. He's not going to get any special privileges, and I think they go forward from there.
John Reed of the Jacksonville Times-Union. So weird to say that right here on Dunc and Holder. Of course, a longtime NOLA.com Times-Picayune. Yeah, it's so weird to say that. I'm used to asking you about Anthony Davis or Chris Paul or anybody like that. So wild to hear you. But Doug Marrone, look, a lot of people thought that hire was just kind of like, what are they doing? What has Doug Marrone kind of done to kind of get that job? And you got to give him all kinds of credit, considering how this team was perceived, and Blake Bortles at quarterback. Look, it seems like he's kind of got a good handle on these things, and also might as well throw in there, look, Tom Coughlin. I mean, putting those two together seems like they've worked pretty well together.
Yeah, man, you might as well ask me a question on the Pelicans, because I think that's what they need to do. I mean, they brought a guy in with experience, Tom Coughlin. He went out and got a coach that, most coaches probably wouldn't accept a situation where you have someone like Tom Coughlin walking the practice field and going over every little nuance that Coach Marrone does. But, it's all about winning here, man. I mean, it's a situation here where the fan base is, it's been a long wait. And they came up with this plan, and, they have a coach who doesn't mind being maybe even second-guessed at times that this is the way that we should do things, and they coordinated this plan. And from day one since I've been there, man, it's been about, playing physical, running the ball, taking the pressure off of Blake Bortles, and getting just taking a part of being physical. I mean, they had some problems up on the offensive line in training camp. I mean, Cam Robinson's come in. If it wasn't for Leonard Fournette, I think that he would be the guy that a lot of people will be saying how, quickly he's emerged as a rookie. But, it's nothing complicated about what they do. They churn yards out. They pass when they have to. And they went out
a little under 2 minutes.
And really went and got people like Calais Campbell and guys like that, and just add some veterans in with some young talent. And right now they're 5-3. But I really think Tom Coughlin has been vital in what this team has done, because I think the plan was formulated in January when they made the change with the coaching, and they sat down and they said, we're going to be this football team who's going to, we need a featured back, we need a good offensive line, and they went out and got Leonard Fournette as a 4th overall pick, and
1 minute.
Everything is pretty much fell in place other than some injuries. But Coach Marrone has just been that type of coach, man. He's been a guy who, he's no nonsense, as I said earlier, but just relying on physical football play and relying on things to get it done. Whether you're a rookie or third-year vet or free agent or whatever, if you can play, he's going to play you. So that's what it's been here.
John Reed of the Jacksonville Times-Union covering the Jaguars, and, of course, Leonard Fournette. Hey, John, appreciate it as always, my friend, and, we'll definitely have to get you back on down the line. So hour number 1 is up.
Thanks, JR.
Yep, hour number 2 is on the way. We'll talk Saints coming up in the next couple segments. Also, we'll talk Pelicans later on in hour number 2 as well. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
In Africa, 5-year-old children asked
Ooh, that was tight.
I was about to say, don't you ask another question. I was going to, and I thought, there's no way.
Remember
that one time we
getting
Gus's
clean
show,
water
and we're
close
just
by.
like, cheers,
Instead of spending hours,
I forgot about that. God, that's a good memory because he was worse then than he is
time to
now.
care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life.
I know.
Learn more at
No way.
worldvision.org.
If you're a pro, you don't buy a little of this or that. You buy a lot of this or that. And at the Home Depot, you save even more. Save up to 15% in bulk discounts on select pro-grade products from top brands like 3M, Loctite, and Liquid Nails. As a pro, you work hard for your money. You shouldn't have to work hard to save it. Up to 15% in bulk discounts on select pro-grade products. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. See store for details.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Eric Bledsoe's getting his wish to be shipped out of Phoenix. The Suns are finalizing a deal to send the disgruntled guard to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Greg Monroe and a first-round draft pick. Astros second baseman Jose Altuve, Indians second baseman Jose Ramirez, and Yankees outfielder Aaron Judge are the finalists for the AL MVP award. Judge is also a finalist for the AL Rookie of the Year honor, along with Andrew Benintendi and Trey Mancini. Marlins outfielder Giancarlo Stanton, Reds first baseman Joey Votto, and Diamondbacks first baseman Paul Goldschmidt are the finalists for the NL's MVP award. NL Rookie of the Year finalists Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers, Pittsburgh's Josh Bell, and Paul DeYoung of the Cardinals. The awards will be handed out next Monday through Thursday. NFL news: Packers right tackle Brian Bulaga suffered what's feared to be a significant right knee injury in last night's home loss to the Lions. I'm Deb Carson.
Are you taking Viagra for ED? Well, now you can get Sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $40 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic Sildenafil to your door. For information on Sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-853-6375. That number again, 800-853-6375.
Kroger is launching its own clothing line as it fights back at Amazon-owned Whole Foods. The nation's largest supermarket chain says it'll launch an apparel brand next fall. The brand will roll out first at Fred Meyer and Kroger Marketplace stores, totaling 300 locations nationwide. Kroger describes the clothing line as modern, playful, and simple for children, teens, and adults. The new iPhone X's facial recognition feature may be really cool, but it has some security experts a bit concerned. Apple was praised after making assurances the facial data would be stored securely on the phone, but here's the rub. The data would not necessarily be protected from thousands of developers who will need it to build some apps for the iPhone X. A video game based on the popular TV show The Walking Dead is in the works. Finland-based Next Games is releasing Walking Dead Our World for some lucky test users soon. It will be out to a wider audience next year. If you have a BMW in the garage, you might want to park it outside while a recall issue is being addressed.
BMW is recalling 1 million vehicles in North America for fire risks. More than 670,000 are related to faulty wiring in heating and air conditioning systems. The rest, they're due to a valve that could rust and lead to a fire. The recall includes models in the 3 Series, 5 Series, and X3, X5, Z4 vehicles for years 2006 to 2011. A spokesman for the company said most of these recalls are in the United States and Canada, but BMW may widen the recall to other countries. Scott Pringle, NBC News Radio.
Ben & Jerry's is releasing another ice cream flavor in collaboration with The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Sales of the limited batch Marshmallow Moon will benefit the Serious Fun Children's Network.
Yeah, see, NFL
Oprah
Network.
will be speaking for Alexa, but only
Everyone's
in a limited way
not
for
believing
a limited
it.
time. Amazon and
Network
Oprah's O Magazine have partnered up for a holiday promotion. It will have Oprah's voice recommending gifts from her favorite things.
They're probably not on board because Sean still won't let them have the live camera in the
NBC News Radio.
complex.
Selfless service is the guiding principle that drives Army National Guard soldiers.
I'm telling you, all these people read my column because my headline, it's time to go all in on the Saints. So people like, should we buy in on the Saints? I'm telling you.
To be a Guard soldier.
Because they're not paying attention. So they're like, their producers wouldn't like, let me go look, see what's going on over there. All right.
To learn more, log on to nationalguard.com to contact an Army National Guard recruiter in your area. Sponsored by the Louisiana Army National Guard.
I've thought about that. I've thought about it a few times. At some point, I'm just gonna like do it, and if they tell me something, they tell me something.
The Bears will once again be entering another.
He's our old colleague.
Saying a new version of the Twilight Zone will soon run with the CBS All Access streaming service. This will be the fourth version of the series, first created by Rod Serling in 1959. CBS announcing that the reboot comes following the service's successful launch of Star Trek Discovery.
Another day, another dawn. Another Keisha, nice to meet you. Get the math.
You got about a minute.
He is changing his name again. Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, posting a video on Twitter on his 48th birthday saying he now wants to go by Love. The rapper and business mogul says that he's been praying on the name change.
Great.
He realizes
P. Diddy's
it's
changed his name again.
Boy,
big news.
Netflix cutting all ties with Kevin Spacey as allegations of sexual assault and harassment mount. The company stating it will not be involved in any further production of House of Cards, suspending production on the upcoming 6th and final season of the series. Netflix also announcing it would not move forward with the film Gore, which was being produced by and starred Spacey. Selena, now part of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the slain singer honored with her own star located in front of the landmark Capitol Records Tower near Hollywood and Vine. Accepting the Walk of Fame star on her behalf was her sister and widower, Chris Perez. Selena was shot and killed in 1995 by the president of her fan club. That's entertainment. Jennifer Bolsoni, NBC.
All right, 10 seconds.
$1,000 in your hand? Sounds good, doesn't it? The next keyword is minutes away on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Hour number 2 of the show. If you missed any of the show, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. And something interesting just coming over literally Twitter seconds before we came back on that will be of interest of NFL and Saints fans. The Vikings will activate Teddy Bridgewater this week. This according to Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen. And the team is discussing whether Sam Bradford goes on injured reserve. And if Sam Bradford went on injured reserve, that would essentially end his season because he wouldn't have enough time to come back and get ready. And if you're going back with Bridgewater, you're expecting him to come in and play. So, and look, Case Keenum's actually done a pretty good job for Minnesota as well to keep them afloat. And so they're one of the teams competing right now for playoff positioning as they're leading the NFC North. And look, the Lions might not be out of it since they won last night in Green Bay. But look, obviously you got to pay attention to all the comings and goings of those teams that are atop the NFC, because right now the Saints are the number 2 seed in the NFC at the midway point of the season. I know I would have never thought of that. Jeff probably would have, because he was always on board, and of course I have been notably not always been on board.
I believe now's a good time to point out that I picked this team 10-6 in the preseason and was roundly ridiculed by my colleagues here at the Times-Picayune for being a homer, which is funny that I would be accused of being a homer.
I never accused you of being anything.
No, it wasn't you.
I thought you were absolutely correct, totally. Especially even when they went 0-2, I was totally on board. They'd go 10-6.
Look, they have it's starting to look like I might have underestimated them at 10-6 because they could actually be better. They're on pace to be 12-4. So, and we thought that the first half of their schedule was going to be the toughest, when actually it's starting to look pretty balanced schedule-wise. There's some tough games down the stretch. Going to Atlanta on Thursday night is not going to be easy. Going to L.A. now, I think everybody preseason thought that would be easy. Same with this Buffalo game. And by the way, have you checked the weather forecast for Buffalo?
Cold and rainy?
Yes.
Is that supposed to be
30s and 40s with rain.
Can't wait to go into that.
Woo! So that all of a sudden throws a totally different wrench into this picture, because the Saints haven't played a bad weather game in a while. I can't even remember the last one. Probably that Philadelphia playoff game we went to where you got us lost in downtown in the freezing cold temperatures. Remember that?
When I got us lost? What? Yeah, right. I remember having to go find any sort of establishment to take a dose of a hot adult beverage to at least warm up my insides, because it was 0 degrees that night.
I think it was negative. I think it was negative wind chill.
All I know is this was the Philadelphia playoff game in the 2013 season. I remember waking up the next morning, and it was a balmy 22, and you could feel how much better it felt at 22 degrees compared to 0 or negative temperatures.
That's as cold as I think I've been.
I can guarantee you it's as cold as I've ever been.
And it was an impressive performance by the Saints to win that game. That's their only road playoff win in franchise history, underscoring the fact that the Saints know this. They need to position themselves potentially down the road to get a home playoff game, because they are, as difficult as it's been for them to win on the road, they are almost unbeatable at home under Sean Payton and Drew Brees. They are unbeatable, right? They haven't lost a home playoff game in this era.
No, they have not.
No,
not under Sean Payton, no.
No, they got outplayed by Minnesota in that NFC Championship game. I really feel like the crowd willed the Saints to that victory. There's no way they win that game, even on a neutral field. That game was all about New Orleanians basically just driving the Saints to victory. I've never seen anything quite like it.
I remember feeling going into that game and watching that game that the Saints, it's like the tightest I've ever seen them play, because they knew this was their opportunity, and they came out and played a little tight at times.
By the way, this is totally off subject, but it just popped into my head because that's the way things work here. A player that played in that game, Scott Fujita, went on a Twitter rant last night on Jameis Winston. I don't know if you saw that, criticizing his leadership ability, what he did going on the field after Marshawn Lattimore, and I could not agree more with everything Scott said. Matter of fact, I'm going to reach out and see if we can get him on the program.
You just want him to go off.
Well, he was making points about Jameis Winston not being a leader, and then also going after Marshawn Lattimore, which is not what a leader does. I totally agree. I think, look, he's a young kid who's he's got a lot on his plate. With the Bucs, they're basically asking him to lead the franchise, but that pregame hype rant was a joke. That was not going to inspire me.
It's made the rounds on Twitter, and people on other teams have laughed at it. Most notably, someone like Golden Tate and even Marshawn Lattimore laughed about how stupid that was. And oh, by the way, Mike Evans has been suspended for a game for the shot on Marshawn Lattimore. Reports out of Tampa say he's going to appeal that, but it should not get reduced. I mean, give me a break. And also, this according to reports out there that ESPN most notably, I think, had it first, that Jameis Winston's going to be sidelined for a few weeks since Alex Okafor's shot on him in the game put him out of the game. And it's something that, look, Cam Jordan said it after the game, I'm sorry if people are offended, but football's a rough sport, and if a quarterback somehow gets injured on a legal play because you're putting pressure on him, that's part of the game. I mean, it just is.
Period. Yeah, I mean, have we gotten that far? I mean, it's
sometimes I feel like we have gotten that far, which is not the way, at least in that sense. Sorry. If you could take a guy out as far as not a cheap shot, if you could just give him a good pop, a legal pop, that is football. Absolutely.
And it's going to happen. I mean, this is an inherently violent game, and to play it, you have to be somewhat deranged a little bit, I think, because it's so difficult. If you've ever been on the field, I've said this to people before, if you've ever been on an NFL sideline and watched a game or seen just a few series, it's unbelievable how violent the game is. It's amazing to me that players don't get hurt on almost every play. They're so fast and so violent with their disregard for their bodies. It's amazing. And so anybody that plays this game at that level, even at the high college level, we were on the field at the end of that LSU-Alabama game, and I felt sorry for Miles Brennan. I mean, Alabama was just turning back their ears, coming after him, and he had no shot. So more power to these guys that play. That's why I always support them when they go for contracts and trying to get renegotiate contracts, because all it takes is one wrong hit, and you're basically done in this league.
That's something like Nick Fairley. I said when he was in free agency, you absolutely have to maximize your dollar amount. No question about it. Winning, guess what? That doesn't pay the bills when you're out the league. A win. Well, it just doesn't.
No, that's a great point. I didn't mean to cut you off, but a good point about, look at Delvin Breaux. Here's a guy that worked, look how hard he worked to get back into the NFL, and now he's had all these injury concerns. He's yet to sign a big contract. He was on the precipice of getting a big deal, and now all these injuries have come up, and we don't know what's going to happen with Delvin Breaux. So I feel for these guys. He's got a young family. He wants to support them, and he has a finite amount of time that he can maximize his earning potential at this level, and he's got to take advantage of it.
Well, I can't believe this is the second week in a row where post game I'm talking about a columnist from another city, Tom Jones from the Tampa Bay Times, and thanking Jim Rapier, who is probably going to look at us right through the door here when he hears I mention his name. He sent us this info, and basically their columnist almost justified what Mike Evans did, saying, did he think it was a cheap shot? Yeah, sure, but he thought it was good that he stepped up and protected his quarterback, and then I guess he gives grades after the game, and he gave Mike Evans an A for doing that. Well, I can give him an A dash and finish it off with an expletive. I could do that for that. That would be the grade I'd give Mike Evans for that, because if he takes out Marshawn Lattimore and he's hurt, that would be a season changer for the Saints. And Sean Payton might have went over there and decked Dirk Cutter if he hurt him. Like, I'm serious.
Well, look, I know Tom Jones. I worked with him at the St. Pete Times, and he's a good guy and a good columnist. But his sentiment, I agree with. Standing up for your quarterback. But the way he went about it, I mean, that's ridiculous. Go over there, and if you want to protect your quarterback, go over there and maybe confront or get between Jameis Winston and Marshawn Lattimore. You don't blindside him. That's completely a cheap shot, completely uncalled for, and way out of line. There's a reason he got suspended for a game. And so by backing him and saying that it's a good thing, you lost your best receiver for a game. And your team's 2-6. So there's nothing good. There's no way to say that was a good decision.
And Mike Evans even said it after the game. He shouldn't have done what he should have done.
Right.
And anticipated some discipline, and now it's coming down, and I would hope the NFL wouldn't back down on this, because that was absolutely absurd. Look, they didn't suspend A.J. Green. They didn't suspend Jalen Ramsey. They didn't suspend, who else? Carlos Hyde. I think he got tossed too in the old brawl weekend. It was like Sunday afternoon brawl city. But, Mike Evans, if anyone needed to be tossed of those guys, A.J. Green and Mike Evans should have been the two that got tossed.
What Mike Evans did was indefensible.
Case closed. I agree. Totally agree. So coming up next here, we'll talk more Saints with Herbie Teope. NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, Hacksaw, a.k.a. Captain America, you name it. Herbie is the guy. And is his profile picture still of him with
I'm looking it up.
Massive mullet?
I loved it.
He was asking me if I had a picture of me with a mullet. I said, well, no. Maybe in 5 weeks I'm going to have a borderline one, because when that might be, I'm doing a mid-season. He changed it.
Took it down.
Oh, I'm doing a mid-season column, kind of mid-season awards, and I might have like dumbest prognostication, and I might have to give myself that for putting up my precious hair for wins, and now I'm going to be toast.
I think that's appropriate, and I think maybe some kind of award for Herbie's haircut.
I don't know. I don't know if that deserves it.
Best avatar. or something.
I don't think that deserves any awards. No chance. But anywho. Hacksaw Herbie T.O.P. coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword LOCK to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming.
All right, 3 minutes.
Info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's LOCK to
we'll play the Peyton sound after Herbie, and then we'll do Pelicans the last segment.
Yeah, they got a game tonight.
Okay.
Oh, you're covering it tonight?
No.
Yeah, I know they got.
That's the
Yeah, I
second
know
annual
that.
Wine on the River.
Yeah, they're back.
Pacers.
Aquarium Plaza. Get your ticket at wineontherivernola.com. Presented by Southern Glazers, WGNO, and NOLA 38.
Good marks coming for the iPhone X's camera. Camera testing site DxOMark says the latest iPhone hits a score of 101 for its photo quality, besting the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 in Hawaii Mate 10 that were tied at a score of 100. The test says the 10 has a noticeably better zoom performance and does better in terms of exposure, color, and texture compared to the iPhone 8 Plus. You can now buy a Slurpee with your Amazon Cash. The service that lets consumers add cash to their Amazon.com balance at brick-and-mortar retailers is now available at nearly 8,000 7-Eleven stores. Amazon Cash was previously only available at a handful of retailers. Amazon customers can load between $15 and $500 in a single transaction with no fees. Chipotle will try and lure customers back with an updated mobile app. The burrito chain says the new version of the app makes it easier for customers to find locations, order, and pay for food on their phones. Chipotle's been hammered by a series of food safety crises.
2-0 on their road trip.
Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Atlantis, where life expresses itself as
saw the
an
Cavs
endless
lost to the
flow of
Bucks
energy. Are you ready?
Atlantis,
Bahamas at heart.
That is unbelievable that they're that bad.
Rates at 1-800-Atlantis or AtlantisBahamas.com.
This is Dr. Ned Hallowell for ADHD Awareness Month. Many people think that having ADHD means something is wrong with them, when in fact, if managed properly, it can be your greatest asset. I know because I have it myself. People with ADHD have race car brains with bicycle brakes. Once they learn to control their brakes, they'll win races. For tips on managing ADHD, listen to my weekly podcast at DistractionPodcast.com.
Right behind him the whole game yelling.
From the co-executive producer of Game of Thrones.
My friends, there are devils out there.
And the producer and director of Logan.
Did Herbie just put this commercial on?
Exactly. Between the people that live in this country and those that meet.
30 seconds.
In a battle between rich and poor. Brother versus brother.
You're gonna save my poor immortal soul.
Dave, we got Herbie.
No, I'll kill you and drag you to hell with me.
Damnation, a new original series. Tonight, 10/9 Central, only on USA.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at America.
Here we go.
This
Dave, Herbie or no?
Meals on Wheels America and the app.
Yeah, I got him.
Oh, okay.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I can see Herbie T.O.P. with the 2 fingers in the air and just headbanging right now to the rock version of the Game of Thrones theme song. Herbie, we need to have video of you just jamming out to this song, man. Come on.
You need to give me a heads up, because I certainly could have come up with one. My goodness, and you are right. I had the 2 fingers up in the air jamming to that song. The best theme song ever in the history of TV.
Better than Saved by the Bell or 90210?
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. There's no better way to start off your Tuesday than the theme music for the Game of Thrones and then being a guest on the Dunc and Holder show. How about that?
You sounded like you were channeling a little Sean Payton there. Absolutely. You know, that's a big Sean line when he has an answer he likes. When he likes the question, unlike anything from our colleague Josh Katzenstein, he'll always come up with absolutely.
Well, he's not usually answering those questions like that for Josh Katzenstein. But anyway, Herbie, look, let's 6 in a row. Look, the Saints really took it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 30-10 in a game we all figured the Saints would win. Just your overall thoughts on that performance and kind of capping off mid-season, having won 6 games in a row.
I will say this. I thought the Saints were going to win. I thought they were going to beat the Buccaneers. But I didn't think it was going to be by that much and by that dominant fashion that they did it. This team is for real. There's no other way to say it. When you reach the midpoint of the season and an NFL team wins 6 games in a row, you have to consider them a serious contender. Because it's hard enough just to win 2 games in a row or 3 games in a row in the NFL, but this team has won 6 in a row. And when you look across the league, this is a team that is primed for a second-half push for the postseason, and you have to like their chances because of what they're doing. I know a lot of fans over the last few years have been caught up in the offense, and to some people they're saying, well, what's wrong with the offense? There's nothing wrong with the offense right now because they're winning by playing complementary football. They're doing it on defense, they're doing it on special teams, and when you can play a complete game like they've been doing, you have to like their chances entering the second half of the year.
I agree 100%, Herbie, and you have a great post up right now on NOLA.com, a little plug for our website and Herbie's work about the unsung heroes in the first half of the season. We all know, look, football teams, there's a lot of star power on this team with Drew Brees and Cam Jordan and Mike Thomas, but they've gotten a lot of contributions from some guys you mentioned like Senio Calamente, Brandon Coleman has kind of risen up this year, and I think Justin Hardy, who you've written about the last couple of weeks, very timely, the guy that blocked the punt and scooped and scored for the kind of tone-setting touchdown on Sunday. But can you just talk a little bit about some of those guys that have kind of made these contributions? Because football is the ultimate team sport. You need these guys to step up and help you win some games.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct because you do have a lot of star power here in New Orleans. People, when you think of New Orleans, the first person you're going to think of is Drew Brees. And then the next person you're obviously going to think of is Alvin Kamara and the other rookie sensation and Marshawn Lattimore. But because it is a team sport, you need everything to be a well-oiled machine. And the guys I've mentioned in this article are the folks who are under the radar for a lot of the fans who don't really have a vested interest in the team and know all the players. They just know all the star guys. But these are the guys who are helping make that engine run. Senio Calamente has been huge these last 8 games. He's a guy who's a backup offensive lineman, but because of his versatility and with all the injuries the Saints offensive line has faced, Zach Strief on injured reserve with a knee injury, Teron Armstead has been dinged up the entire season, right guard Larry Warford missed the last 2 games with an abdomen injury. He's a guy who can come in there and play all these positions, and you don't miss a beat. Ken Crawley is a guy I think that really has grabbed my attention because he was inactive the first 2 games. And remember those first 2 games, the Saints' pass defense was horrendous. They ranked last in the league, but this guy has come in here, started 6 games, along with Lattimore, has stabilized that cornerback position group, and now the Saints rank 12th against the pass after starting the year ranked dead last, and that's a vast improvement. And you have to love what Crawley has done. Sheldon Rankins, here's a guy I know a lot of fans are scratching their heads about. You know, you look at his production in 9 games last season, 4.5 sacks, 20 tackles. He doesn't have the numbers this year, but that's perfectly fine because he plays a thankless position when you're in the interior defensive line. His job, along with Tyler Davison, is to command blockers and free up the players around him. And one of the things that really
it can run out of juice. Yeah,
is that red thing?
I mean, it should be fine.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, another warm and muggy day with highs of 84, partly cloudy skies and mostly dry. Now tonight, lows drop to the mid to upper 60s with patchy dense fog. Tomorrow and Wednesday, the front moves in. Rain chances at 30% with a high of 78. And then Wednesday night, still a few showers. The front finally bridges on through. We dry out and turn breezy and much cooler for Thursday and Friday. Highs in the upper 60s. Overnight lows 40s north and 50s south.
I got 3.5 minutes.
Okay. I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Changes in weather can lead to colds and other ailments.
Yeah,
rely on the most accurate, easy-to-use thermometer, the Exergen Temporal Scanner. Now at Toys R Us and Babies R Us and other fine retailers.
Surgeon is caring for your family.
Action film star Chuck Norris says he's giving up his action movie career to campaign against what he believes are the dangers of MRI scans he says poisoned his wife. The 77-year-old martial arts star and his wife Gina recently sued medical device manufacturers over a chemical used in MRI scans. Gina Norris was given the chemical before having an MRI scan for arthritis 4 years ago. She was hospitalized 6 times with severe pain and weakness in the weeks after the scan. Chuck Norris feels bad for people that don't have the financial ability that he does to get her regular stem cell treatment in China. And Sunday's mass shooting at a Texas church is prompting calls from Colorado mental health professionals for reforms to mental health care. Andrew Romanoff for Mental Health Colorado says treatment for mental illness is too often overlooked and underfunded. The suspect in the Texas church shooting, Devin Patrick Kelly, lived in the Colorado area at one point. He was cited for animal cruelty in El Paso County 3 years ago. Health Update, Michael Bauer, NBC News Radio.
O'Reilly. If it's time to replace your vehicle's headlights, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts See Better, Drive Safer sale for a twin pack of Sylvania Silver Star Ultra headlights and get a $15 O'Reilly gift card after mail-in rebate. See farther and more clearly with Silver Star headlights at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It appears you'll once again be entering another dimension. The LA Times saying a new version of The Twilight Zone will soon run on the CBS All Access streaming service. This will be the 4th version of the series, first created by Rod Serling in 1959. CBS announcing that the reboot comes following the service's successful launch of Star Trek Discovery.
Another day, another dawn. Another Keisha, nice to meet you. Get the math, I'm gone.
Diddy is changing his name again. Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, posting a video on Twitter on his 48th birthday saying he now wants to go by Love. The rapper and business mogul says that he's been praying on the name change and he realizes it's risky and maybe corny to some people. Netflix cutting all ties with Kevin Spacey as allegations of sexual assault and harassment mount. The company stating it will not be involved in any further production of House of Cards, suspending production on the upcoming 6th and final season of the series. Netflix also announcing it would not move forward with the film Gore, which was being produced by and starred Spacey. Selena, now part of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The slain singer honored with her own star located in front of the landmark Capitol Records Tower near Hollywood and Vine. Accepting the Walk of Fame star on her behalf was her sister and widower, Chris Perez. Selena was shot and killed in 1995 by the president of her fan club. That's entertainment. Jennifer Bolsoni.
30 seconds.
Everyone does it. In the living room, the garage, at the kitchen table. Everyone you know. Your kid's teacher, the neighbor, the coffee guy. Hey, you're doing it right now. I'm talking about listening to radio. Radio is huge. And radio ads like this connect with 93% of Americans a week. That's bigger than TV, Facebook, and Google. So if you're a marketer, with radio, you reach more of who you want. More boomers, more Gen Xers, even more millennials. So get to iHeartMedia.com for the one place everyone is. AM/FM radio.
Here we go.
Everyone's doing it.
Your teams, your Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Welcome back to Dunc and Holder. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan here with you at our NOLA.com Times-Picayune Studios, 32nd floor of Canal Place at the foot of Canal Street. And Jeff, you figure at 6-2, you're starting to kind of gain an identity for your team. And I think the Saints have really started to establish that, to where the identity of the team, and I brought it up with Herbie Teope in our last segment, the identity of the team is no longer just Drew Brees, and it's all over the map. It's complementary football. It's the defense playing well. It's the ground game getting it done. It's Drew Brees, when you need him, can make things happen and get you key third down conversions and get you in the end zone. It's more of not a one-man show. It's a kind of a group thing, and I think that's to win a Super Bowl or to even be mentioned in a top seed or anything like that at the midpoint of the season. You've got to have that sort of game and not lean on one player particularly.
I'll tell you what else I liked, and I agree 100% with what you said. I liked the fire that Sean Payton is coaching with this year. We saw it certainly in the game on Sunday. And for the most part, we haven't seen that side of Peyton in a while. And I think Saints fans like that in Sean Payton. They like that he's got a little, fire and brimstone in him, and that he comes after.
They've wondered where it's been.
Right.
For the last few years.
And we're seeing it. I mean, he's got it. He's got it back for whatever reason. It was not there for a while. Maybe he just knew his team wasn't that good. But the cocky Sean Payton is back, and he's still aggressive. I was actually surprised they only really took one deep shot after that fight. I thought they were going to try and just hammer the Bucs.
I thought they were going to try to go after him too.
Right.
Yeah,
knowing Sean, that's how he works.
Yeah.
But I think he really is happy with the job that Dennis Allen is doing. And I think Dennis Allen, again, is starting to open eyes around the league. And some teams, if there's some coaching changes, I think he's going to be in line to at least get some interviews for head coaching jobs, because he didn't succeed in Oakland, but what he's doing with this defense should not be overlooked. I mean, he's been one of the bright spots. And I know there were some people that never bought into Dennis Allen. I don't understand that. I mean, he's done an incredible job with this defense.
I mean, I do think the players are better that he's coaching, but and everyone gets a sense of what's going on. I think that's a big thing. And, oh, by the way, when you get a pass rush and your secondary plays better, your defense gets better, period.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
It's complementary within the defense, the pass rush and the coverage. But I think, look, it all starts, and I really believe this, it's not too simplistic to say that it all starts with Marshawn Lattimore. He's like this outlier guy there that once you have him, a lockdown corner like him, it creates a domino effect in the secondary on coverage, and then that in turn has an effect on the pass rush. And when you have a lockdown guy like that and can take away the best receiver on the other team or half of a field, whatever, it affects everything else in the defense. And I think if you ask Cam Jordan, he would tell you the same thing.
Yeah, I think he'd agree. But let's hear a couple sound bites from Sean Payton. This is from his Monday conference call. Of course, that happened during our show yesterday, so I wanted to bring you some interesting tidbits from that. But let's hear what Sean Payton had to say when he was asked about the identity of his team right now.
Well, look, I think that's, to answer your question, I would say a lot better than the start of the season, and yet I think they're still establishing, who and what they're going to be. But yeah, I mean, this is a, group that likes to compete, and I think, we've gained confidence, and some of these games have unfolded differently than maybe expected. But I think that's still a process that we're finding out. I mean, I think there's things that are taking place right before our eyes, and we're working to correct and improve on. And I think, through that performance, you're seeing guys, come in and play with a little bit more of a swagger and a little bit more of a confidence, and that's encouraging.
Now, one thing the Saints have to improve upon is simply fielding a punt. It's something that Sean Payton pointed out in the post-game press conference. He says, look, we got to be able to just straight up catch a punt and not have it be a fire drill every time. Look, it almost burned him a couple weeks ago in Green Bay. It burned him once here against the Tampa Bay Bucs. But here's Sean Payton about the dropped punts.
I think that's a good question, but it's not. It's look, we have to be able to, in the NFL, when we're faced with a situation where a team's punting in, where normally it's a fair catch or a let it bounce decision, we've got to be able to catch that ball 100% of the time, and we'll find someone that can. Because it's not, Herbie, it's not like those are rarely return situations. Those are generally, at that landmark of secure the catch here or let it fall here. And we just need someone that's reliable enough to do that.
Sean, do you think you have someone on the roster right now that can?
We'll see. If I had him and I knew he could, I'd have put him out there. And I feel like Snead and I feel like Ginn can do that. But we've got to know it. And, we got away with the one at Green Bay. And now yesterday, look, obviously we've got to do a better job coaching it.
Well, you can coach it all you want. If the guy gets butterfingers out there, you need to get someone back there to simply make a fair catch. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, look, coaches, one thing you always hear, even at the college level, they have a clock in their head, the return guy on a punt, and they tell them to count while they're looking at the ball, keeping their focus on the ball, but they're counting the hang time basically built into most punts. And there's a decision that has to be made, and they're thinking on the fly. All these things are coming at them while they're doing it. It's not easy. I mean, I know we've been put out there before. Jim Haslett, when I was the beat writer on the Saints early in my career here, Michael Lewis was having trouble fielding punts, and we were writing about it, much like we're writing about it right now. And he was trying to take up for his young player, and he made all the beat writers go out and catch punts in front of the team from the jugs gun, and it was embarrassing to say the least. I did manage to catch mine, but I would say that I had an easy one compared to some of the other guys. I just got a lucky ball, but it is not easy, and we see it at halftime of Saints games. I mean, people can't even draw ball. I mean, they're airballing on just a normal citizens. And I know these guys are paid to do it, but it is more difficult than people think, and he's right. They've got to be able to at least catch it, much less get the return down.
2 words, Jarris Byrd. Bring him back. Trade him. Get a trade past the deadline, an illegal trade from Carolina, and bring Jarris Byrd back just for that.
You're causing Saints fans to shudder.
You say that? You want me to tell you how many times I saw on Twitter yesterday that bringing back Jarris Byrd would be the solution to this problem?
Just to have him on the roster.
I'm telling you, just for that. Just for that.
I think I would bring back Michael Lewis or somebody. Just he's around the building.
Fred McAfee is an employee.
Fred McAfee was
put him out there.
That's a great point.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not easy to do, and it's not easy to do. I've heard this before from players in the dome. There's a weird, ceiling at the dome. It's very dark, and then there are these lights, and the ball goes in and out of these. There's a weird backdrop on that ceiling that causes some problems there. I'm not making excuses, but I've heard it from numerous players over the years. And I think someone like Ted Ginn Jr., let's face it, he hasn't played that many games in the dome over the years, and so he's probably adjusting to it.
Let's do 2 more sound bites, and then we'll take a break right here and get to our final segment. But if you didn't know, Sean Payton got his 100th career regular season win with the win against the Bucs on Sunday, and he passed Vince Lombardi. So here's Sean Payton's reaction to passing one of the greatest coaches to ever play in career wins.
Man, until you just said that, I didn't realize it, and I feel like I feel like it's early in my career. Been with a lot of good teams and a lot of good players, and I just feel like it's such a team game that it's hard to look at individual numbers like that. I mean, look, yesterday they gave me a hard time. It was the 100th win of regular season, and I got a ball from Breeze, and then Mickey congratulated Pete Carmichael and the same way, and Pete said, well, I'm already at 107 or 106 because he was here in 12. So, there's so many guys that are involved in winning a game, and I think it's a privilege to be able to coach and work with guys, work with young players too. But go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to let you. You currently sit 41st all time combined wins, regular season and postseason.
Well, listen, I'm trying to get that lower.
Of course, he's trying to get that. Let me be 20th by the time I'm out of here. One more soundbite, and then we'll take one more break. Sean Payton, on how much have the issues from the last 3 years helped keep this team focused on the task at hand this year?
Oh, I don't know. I think there's a lot of new faces on this team, and I think they look at it like it's their own identity. I don't think necessarily they draw to responsibilities or team mistakes 3 years ago. I mean, there's obviously a number of players that were here 3 years ago, but I think it's viewed more about this season, and certainly the guys that have been here understand how close these games can come down to, and whether it's a 2-minute drive, a goal line situation, and so I think there's that balance of understanding how quickly how close things are in our league, with other teams and week to week, and then appreciating that week in the preparation, in the moment of that game.
Just a heads up, we're not the ones hacking out lungs and typing during those.
My God, yeah, who is that?
I don't know, but I just said we just got to deal with it. So I don't know who it was. So let's take one more break right here on the show. Pelicans getting back on the court. I'm surprised Jeff hasn't been showing me all the turnover stats for DeMarcus Cousins. He did it throughout yesterday's show just to show me. And yet, guess what, Jeff? They're 2-0 on this road trip, and they got 2 more road games. And they tip off tonight at Indiana. So we'll talk.
When they beat a team that's got a winning record, let me know.
Well, did the Cavs have it at the time?
I don't know.
So I don't know either. So good conversation here. We'll expound on that, with expert analysis here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
The passion.
Inbound to Frazier, left wing 3.
Wow, that was Dave. What was that song? That was cool.
Down low, Blake Paul.
Oh, that's Sublime. Love is what I got.
That's it?
I said, remember that. Yeah,
hey, man. Where you at?
I've heard that song. I just didn't know that was part of it.
Yeah, in the that song, one of the other songs I played earlier. I used to be in a band pre-Katrina, and actually, our drummer listens to the show. He's probably listening on YouTube right now. What up, Frankie? That was one of the songs we used to do.
What was the name of your band?
Comes to vehicle.
Tattooed Santa.
Not worth taking. Get set for this.
I don't even want to ask, do I?
No, it's actually a fairly PG story. Our guitarist has tattoos all over his, like sleeves of tattoos, and he used to work for Harley. And they needed a Santa one year, and so he put on the Santa suit, and one of the kids lifted up his sleeve, and they saw the tattoos. They're like, "Look, Mommy, it's the Tattooed Santa."
I love it. You thought that's a band name.
Santa was born.
I think we've got a name for our band.
Just right up there like the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
Same thing.
From top brands like.
I still got the guitar pick from our band.
Got all the
awesome. Yeah, we used to play Southport Hall, a bunch of places, man.
Oh, that's
we were doing pretty good, but Katrina screwed it all up.
Well, wait,
my guitarist lives in Florida now. I was the lead singer.
Saving.
Awesome. So we can make a boy band.
We can make a band. Yeah,
I
could
was
rap.
a vocal major in college, dude. I mean, I didn't pay to go to college. I was a vocal major. I got scholarships, baby.
SOS Children's Villages is there in 134 countries, including the U.S. To make a difference in a child's life, go to sosusa.org.
All right, 1 minute.
John Besh resigns from Catholic Ethics Board. I'm stunned.
What?
Fighting the disease.
Stunner of the year.
Year's gala is Sunday.
Right.
At City Park's Parkview Terrace, with all proceeds benefiting the Scott Eli Jackson Foundation and its mission. It'll be a night of great entertainment and fabulous local cuisine. Find out more. Go to thesejf.org.
Put $1,000 in your hand. Win $1,000 every hour. Up to 16 times a day. Weekdays. Starting at 5 a.m. When you hear the keyword, text it to 200-200. Listen.
10 seconds.
$1,000 in your...
We got about 8 minutes. Or
Okay.
6 minutes. 6 minutes.
Dunc and Holder now. Josh Innes next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Pelicans get back on the court tonight after over the weekend. They picked up an overtime win at Chicago on Saturday night. Friday night, 99-94 win at Dallas. So 2-0 on the road trip. 4-game road trip wraps up after Thursday night's game at Toronto. But they're taking on the Pacers in Indiana. 6 o'clock Central tip. Of course, you can listen to that on our sister station, WRNO 99.5 FM. And Jeff, you were mocking the Pelicans, saying, man, when are they going to beat a team with the winning record? Look, Indiana's 5-5. Does that count for you? Is that good enough for you?
Look, I don't want to come across as being down. I'm just saying I'm not that impressed that they're 2-0 on a road trip against two bad teams. I mean, the Mavericks are awful. They're the worst team in the West. And then who they just beat the other night?
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in the East. So they should win those games. So I'm not praising them, but look, at least they're not losing them. But they've played some of the worst teams in the league.
Jeff, you got to temper
Sacramento Kings.
You got to temper your expectations. Look, the fact that they're winning games, period, is a plus.
No, they should be winning games. They got two of the best big men in the league. They've got one of the best point guards in the league. I mean, they've got a lot of talent. They should be winning these games. It shouldn't even be a consideration. But they're 0-5 against teams with winning records. 0-5. Let's look at it that way.
Well, they're 5-0 against teams they should beat then.
Right, but they're playing teams with winning records. They haven't beaten anybody. I mean, so come on.
They could get above 500 though with a win tonight.
Yes, and you know what? They got some good news on that front. I just tweeted out Sabonis for Indiana is not going to play. Rookie TJ Leaf, one of their top young players from UCLA, he's questionable tonight, so that's going to help their cause. I think Indiana's going to have a big-time problem trying to defend Boogie and the Brow in the paint because those two guys, most teams struggle to defend them. But when you don't have Sabonis and Leaf potentially, that's two of the four best big men on the Pacers team.
Well, you could say what you want about who they're beating, but they are 4-2 on the road, and usually you pick up your wins at home. So the fact that early on in the season they're 4-2 on the road should bode well, at least tonight. But Jeff, look, I think that for this team, I'm going to come in this season, and we're 10 games in now, and I still feel like, look, if they were 2-8, it'd be panic mode. I think they still need to build with what they've got, and they're going to have to readjust whenever Rajon Rondo finally gets back in there. At least it would add one more player to the rotation because obviously they haven't had much of a rotation because so many guys are having to play. So few guys are having to play so many minutes, so I think that's going to help them. But look, if they can come back to New Orleans, they take on the Clippers Saturday night, then they take on Atlanta on Monday, November 13th, and then Toronto again on November 15th. So they'll play Toronto and then in two of their next 5 games. And obviously, look, those teams aren't any slouches.
No,
so that'll be a bigger test than maybe the ones they've seen in the past few games.
I think Toronto on the road will be a good barometer for this team. I mean, Toronto is one of the better teams in the East, and I'll be interested to see how they fare against the Clippers, who have really had a surprising start so far. I mean, they are, what are they right now? I'm looking them up online. 5-4. And surprisingly, I mean, they were actually better than that. They've lost a few games lately. So, look, I'm not down on them. I'm not getting carried away with them beating the Dallas Mavericks, who are 1-10, and the Sacramento Kings, who are 1-8, and the Chicago Bulls, who are 2-6. Cleveland's 4-6. And these games, I mean, they're not throttling these teams either. They're you know, I'm very much in wait and see mode, but I'll be interested to see what happens when they get Rondo back, because I'm not keen on running this offense through DeMarcus Cousins. I'm sorry, I'm old school. He's leading the league in turnovers. He's shooting 7 threes a game. I know they want to keep him away from the basket to keep the double teams away from AD. I understand there's a thought process and a strategy in that, but he's shooting as many or more threes than any. He's shooting more threes than any big man in the league, and he's only shooting 31% on them. So it's not like he's lighting it up. I don't get the strategy.
I'm just saying, for me, they're 5-5. I would not even think about talking about them in the conversation if they were 2-8, and I'd be like, oh, they're the same old Pelicans. I'm not even going to mention you. Like, I wouldn't.
But they're not playing any. All right.
You still got to win the games you got to win.
Well, okay.
Just like the Saints.
Good. I'm glad. When they start beating, look, they get the Clippers at home on Saturday. I'll be at that game. That'll be a big test for me to see how they perform in that game.
All right, we'll see how they finish up in a week, and because then they'll play some better teams, and we'll get a better gauge. All right, I can get on board with that. All right, want to thank John Reed. Want to thank Andrew Lopez. Want to thank Herbie Tiopi, and appreciate all you listeners out there. So, look, we'll be back tomorrow. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Older. Hate the Pelicans. Hate them.
No, don't.
All right, guys.
Hi, Dave. See you, buddy. Thanks.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Thanks, bud.
Campaign.
You welcome.
Believes are the dangers of MRI scans. Poisoned his wife. The 76